Well, here we are. This is my second bench press training video I've put out where I'm going to go over a workout that I just did, kind of talk about what I'm doing and why. I left in some of the extra stuff besides just the lifts, so I have a little more time to explain what's going on and what you're looking at. I always start off my workouts with just the bar, work on getting the right form, loosening the muscles and joints up a little bit. I didn't do that much when I was younger, but I'm in my 50s now, and if I don't do that, things start to rip and tear and cause all kinds of problems. So start off with just the bar and go up to 135 here on the next one, and it's the same thing. I don't like to jump up too fast. I want to make sure that everything's warming up, and I work on the form I'm going to use. I know I'm going to be benching with a little bit more narrow grip this day than I normally do. I want to work the triceps a little bit, and I'm not necessarily maxing out or anything. So I got my pinkies on the rings, which at 6'3" in height, it's relatively narrow for me, and that allows me to kind of work on those tries a little bit without being strictly a close grip bench press. It's still a lot closer to a regular bench press. So that was 185. And now we're up to 225. Feeling a little better than I thought I would going in. Things were loosening up and starting to feel kind of good. I oftentimes have worn elbow sleeves for the last couple of years because some elbow injuries, but lately I've been able to go without them a little bit, and it's still feeling good. 275, not bad. Now again, my goal is not necessarily to max out today, so I'm just warming up before I work into some of the different things. 315, my goal on this day, as I was working out, what I decided I'm going to do is I'm going to use some hanging bands, which you'll see me put on in a little bit. And those hanging bands take some of the weight off the bar at the bottom. I've heard some comments from people that, hey, dummy, the bands are supposed to be on the bottom, because apparently they don't understand that there are different methods and not just the one. Both bands coming from the ground, from the floor, and also up top have the same thing where they make it feel lighter at the top and heavier at the bottom. But there's a little bit different effect. And when I hang the bands from the top, it means that I'm basically full weight, but free weight, no extra pulling on the bar at the top. And it's just lighter at the bottom. Whereas when they're coming from the ground, it gets harder and it pulls the direction of wherever the band is connected. So if they're a little off center, it can kind of pull you out of your position, and it's kind of hard on the joints. So I like to use them both. It's good to switch it up. Your body gets used to things, and one of the main reasons for all these differences is to keep your body guessing, keep it growing and getting stronger so it doesn't get stagnant doing the same things all the time. It's good for the mind also. Allows you to keep things fresh in your mind. It's getting a little heavier. I start to put my wrist wraps on and try to keep my wrists in line. At this point, I've put hundreds outside of the 245, so it's 425, and I have just a blue band hanging, which they're pretty thin, these blue bands. They're not the big, thick ones like some guys use for squats. And so I wasn't sure how it was going to feel. I haven't done this exactly like this with this setup, so it's hard to know how easy or hard a lift's going to be till you try it. And I think it's important to point out that, when I do a certain weight with something like this, where there's a bench block on the bar that's making kind of like a two board, bringing the bar down to just a couple inches off your chest, or when you're using bands or bench daddy, slingshot, any of those things, obviously that weight is not the same as if you benched without any assistance whatsoever. But what I like to do is just compare apples to apples. So if I do this exercise like I'm doing today with the hanging bands, which the bench block on, as long as I'm doing more, whether it's reps or weight, with all the same variables that I did last time, I know I'm improving. And it's not that I'm saying, guess what I lifted raw and it's the same as a regular bench press. I know it's a different exercise. All right, so I added 25 on each side, so that took it from 425 to 475, and I added a red band, which is a little thinner than the blue one, but it took a little of the weight off. And it still felt kind of heavy. At that point, I knew I wanted to start using my green bench daddy. That would make it lighter at the bottom, but still being heavy at the top, and allow me to go a little bit heavier, and like I said, add some more variables to the system. A lot of guys will say this is ego lifting, but I like to, if I do compete again in the future, I've been thinking about using a bench shirt, which I've used in the past, and it mimics a lot of the same things, and it allows your body to get used to these heavy weights. And it keeps things fun. So right here I have 515 pounds with those bands hanging. So 515 pounds of weight on the bar, but obviously at the chest it's lighter than that because the bands are lightening it. And of course I'm using the Bench Daddy, which takes some of the weight off as well. All right, so I got up to 605 here on the bar, and I decided I was going to go for reps and see what I could do. I have never done more than 2 reps, I think, above 600 pounds, even with the Bench Daddy. I've done sets of 2 at times, so I wanted to see what I could do. It felt a lot heavier and more difficult when I was doing it. It looked actually okay when I did it. That's 5 reps there. So I was pretty happy with that. And I wanted to then go from that into some close grip bench presses. Now I'm not using the Bench Daddy again, but I do have the hanging bands. So I had 225 on the bar, and I was going to do some reps, and it was actually ridiculously light. But again, having not done it with that same setup, I wasn't sure what was going to feel heavy and what was going to feel light, especially after doing so many reps with 605. So that was too easy. Add a 45 to each side and get up to 315 bar weight, and then lightened at the bottom, and able to punch out 10. It's feeling pretty good at this point, having gone relatively more narrow than normal on the regular benches, and then in to just a thumb distance from the smooth part on the bar for these, which is close grip for me at my height. It was getting a little more difficult. So 365 of bar weight minus the bands, and I'll pump out some reps here and see what I can do. I'm really feeling it right there. It felt a lot harder than it looked, but I was trying to grind it out and really squeeze my triceps and really work on that lockout strength for when I'm benching heavy.